Well, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Charlotte Payton, and I am the Secondary Ed Partnership Specialist with Tallo. I am a former educator. I taught journalism and English at Battlefield High School in Virginia for just under 10 years and have been in ed tech in the last 6 years. Education remains my passion, so I'm very excited today to share with you what we have at Tallo. Joining us this afternoon is Tara Smith. She is a proud Sumter, South Carolina native. Tara has 19 years of experience as an educator, having worked in a number of public and private school settings with a wide range of student populations ranging from K-12 to adult education. She earned her bachelor's degree in sociology from Morris College and a master's degree in education in Divergent Learning from Columbia College. She presently works at the high schools as the high school's Academic Recovery Interventionist for Lawrence County School District 55, and she previously worked as a district career specialist for Richland School District 2 in Columbia, South Carolina, where she focused on high school students who wanted to pursue careers in engineering and computer science. So thank you so much for joining us, Tara.
Thank you for having me, Charlotte. I do appreciate just you hosting this beautiful, first of all, afternoon, and just allowing me to be able to share about my experiences with Tallo.
I was going to say, I know you're very busy, so we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to share those experiences. So I'm going to dive right into my questions for you, if that's okay.
Sure.
I would like to know how you found Tallo and how it fit into your program's objectives.
Sure. Actually, just a couple of shout outs. I know my mom is watching and my brother, so they're my biggest cheerleaders. And these shout outs will actually be a precursor for what I'm about to share. Those who I work with in Lawrence County, School District 55, Dr. Thomas, who is our superintendent, Ms. Renee Madden, who is our HR and director, Dr. Bennon, and Dr. Faulkner. All of those folks who have just been so supportive since I've arrived here at Lawrence County 55. And they're very, very adamant about students actually being forthright within their career goals. Also Richland 2, my former principals and counseling teams, they are Dr. Brenda Max Foxworth, as well as Mr. Robert Jackson. And this is where it all started for me at Sumter High School in Sumter County School District, where the former Dr. Frank Baker, actually, who was the superintendent at the time and is now a school board member, as well as the principal, Nicholas Pearson. So to tell you how it all started for me, I was assigned, actually STEM Premier formally, was one of the upcoming digital platforms. And so I was assigned to do something with it. And so I said, hey, why don't we just do something that's pretty big with the community involved? And at the time, your CEO, I think, now Casey Welch, he was very, very instrumental in coming and showing us a plethora of information for our students and what an educational digital platform looks like. And so it was very helpful. And it started where we had just juniors and seniors, not the whole high school. And from there, the community bought into it. We even had commerce as well as the school board that was a part. And so because at that time, we really were just honing in on the STEM related career fields. But now you can tell Tallo has really reached a whole wealth of information for our students regarding their career fields.
Fabulous. I love that you've been with us since we were STEM Premier, right from the beginning. So thank you so much for all that loyalty throughout the years. Could you give us some examples of how you've used Tallo to help with student goal planning, career pathway development, and achieving their goals throughout high school and beyond, I guess?
Yes. Actually, when it comes to the objectives as far as career aspirations, one day a student may say, hey, I want to be an engineer. Tomorrow, it may be something else totally different. But I do believe Tallo gives a platform for our students to have choices and selections. And they have a way of maneuvering and encountering, such as where the career path may even change. We can tell through just pandemic, pre-post pandemic, that careers have changed and the economy changes with it. So a lot of times they may say, hey, Miss Smith, I want to do this today, but tomorrow it may be something totally different. But I do believe that this digital platform gives us choices and make sure as an educator, we can flow along with those students in ensuring that they have all the needs met, not just in making sure like, hey, go do this assessment and go figure it out. You have the choices that are before you.
I love that. So coming off of that, can you give us some stories of students who've used it and you've seen their success? We'd love to hear some of that as well.
Yes, one in particular in Richland School District Two at Ridgeview High School. These students actually, this was called the Carolina Alliance for Technology, and they do have a badge at those two schools, Westwood as well as Ridgeview High Schools. And what they would do, these students actually are geared towards the career fields of engineering and computer science. So what they would actually do, they did a lot of STEM-related activities, job shadowing, as well as a lot of internships, apprenticeships. But at the time when I arrived, Tallo was being used throughout the entire school district, but they were not using it based on their career choices. And so this young man, Tyreek Mansfield, he is now an ambassador for Tallo, and he began using the platform and he flourished. He is a student at Clemson University in the field of engineering. And when he called me one day and said, I became Tallo's ambassador. He was actually a part of the STEM signing day for Boeing. And it was just, from there on, that student actually began to, search his way through, but yet making decisions based on the platform helping him and supporting him.
I love that. So you mentioned badges. For the people listening and who aren't familiar with Tallo, can you tell us a little bit about badging and how you guys use that?
Yes. So with the badging, we actually sent in some information, and it was a very easy process, just authenticating what CAT was and what it is. And then from there, the students would actually go into their platform as they continue to create and add more in, get more out. And as they made their profiles bigger and better with maybe videos or their grades or activities that they were doing, actually, they could request the badge. And the badge was actually an incentive for them, with their digital platform. So it actually, for those jobs or schools or colleges that are looking for a certain kind of student, and not to demean it at all, but if Clemson University in the engineering department is looking for engineers or potential engineers in those related career fields, certainly they wouldn't want someone who has healthcare. So, and it signifies and dignifies how that student actually can follow through with where their career field is going in that particular cluster.
That's great. So your students were earning various badges, they put it on their profile, and then colleges could come in and see those badges and know they didn't just earn that, like they didn't just put a sticker on their wall. They had to earn that through credentials.
Absolutely. It was an earning process, and they had to actually, pretty much earn it based on how much they put into the digital platform, absolutely.
Good. I love that. Do you have any other stories? That's Tariq. I know we talked about a young woman too who
Yes,
had
yes,
some great success. Do you mind sharing her story as
I
well?
do. I do. I don't mind. Actually, she was a church member, and her mom had stated that she was going to a particular school towards the, I think in the Catawba region in South Carolina. And I said, hey, we were in church. And I said, hey, do you know about Tallow? And she said, no, I never heard of that. I said, hey, when you get home, let's try this. So the more I talked about the platform and what it offered and what the dashboard looked like, it was like a uniformity of LinkedIn and Facebook as a collab. And so we sat in church and actually created her platform, and she had it on her phone. So the great thing about Tallo is just not the digital base is not just for a computer, but also you can utilize it on your phone. So that's on the mobile device. So that's a great help.
That's wonderful. I love that. Maybe we should call you our Tallow ambassador. So if you round it out a little bit, how has Tallow helped you achieve your objectives and goals, both as an individual contributor, but also as your whole, program goals?
So currently I work as an academic recovery interventionist. And so those students typically have either they're high risk or at risk. And sometimes there are gaps. It sometimes doesn't even have anything to do with student ability. They're just a little behind. And our state has actually awarded us a certain type of funding to catch up a little with our students. So a lot of times what I've learned as far as my background in education is contextualized learning. And those things as far as using that particular instruction and using the collaboration with Tallo is a big help. So it's almost like a perfect marriage, if you will. So using the contextualized learning as far as using the new knowledge or background knowledge for students, and then embedding them into the content and making them real world applications. So example would be if a student, if the teacher, the educator is doing any teaching in terms of a writing assignment. And the writing assignment may have something to do with, we can talk about women's history for this month. You would take something from Tallo as far as if that particular woman in history has done something, you can actually use that platform to embed in the instruction and use it as a tool to get the students' attention, because now it's job related, it's work related, but yet it's also a real world application. And so it really does help quite a bit. So educators can use career development and a career awareness as far as an educational tool.
I tell you, I taught business for, we did a business unit, and you're right, all of these things we were instructing, even though it was an English class, right? Still working on that. So
yes.
That's awesome. So the other question I have is if you could tell me a little bit about support matters in your work there and then how Tallo plays into your mission.
Sure. So support matters is something that we created. I have a team of folks and I am co-owner of that. And it is based on educational consulting. And what we do, we talk about career development in all sorts of ways, from K-12 to the adult learner. And it is very a resourceful tool that we use because of the fact that, of course, our economy has changed and career choices and selections and development has changed. And that's because one day we were able to come into work. The next day, you're working remotely. So what does that look like for the average? And so we, as Support Matters, and this is the stem of our educational consulting is that we are a support. That's why it's called Support Matters. We are the arms, the legs of any moving part of education. And that this is so helpful. We talk about admin, we talk about teachers for sure, and we talk about so many other things. But what about the career specialist or the career development facilitator or career counselor or even a school counselor? There are times where those supports are not underappreciated, because certainly they are, but sometimes in the midst of all of the changes, it can be overlooked. So we're there to actually just be the support.
I love that. And, you brought up your adult learners, and there is no expiration date on Tallo, right? So
Nope.
you could be my ripe old age at 3 adult children
Yes.
and go on Tallo and use it to do research and look at, the resources they have on there. So you're right that it's good for all ages. So my last question is, what is your favorite Tallo feature?
My favorite is the community. It is. And let me tell you why. A lot of times, the students are not going to always ask us questions, but it's amazing if you go on there now, how many questions they ask outright to each other. And it could be something simple, like, hey, where do I get this job? Or, hey, there was a college that I applied to, and I'm still waiting on the scholarship, but has anyone else received a scholarship from them via Tallo? And so you have such a community there, and it's such a great partnership. So that's one of my favorites. But the other favorite, I know you didn't ask me that.
No, yes, go for it.
But the other favorite is just the dashboard alone. And so because it gives so many selections that students, you would think that the average is not thinking about. So one of the things that are consistent for me is, like, if a child actually is in the 9th grade and has created just a profile on Tallo, but yet they're not working, they're not old enough to work, but you also have the options of, do you do lawns? Do you wash dishes? Do you know what I mean? Do you babysit? Do you volunteer? All of those things are actually jobs. And so they are a beginning of a career. And so they're very, very helpful when it comes to, and they are support for helping the students make decisions. And one of the things about our students, Charlotte, and that's everywhere, is the fact that it's hard making decisions. Adults have a hard time making decisions, but this platform is such a mantra for making decisions, and making decisions that are helpful and not just something that, oh, it's another thing to do.
So I wanted to dive into 2 pieces of that. So when you talked about the freshman creating a profile,
Yes.
And I think often that's where the educators become so important, because it's not as simple as coming up, putting your picture up, and just writing down your career, guiding them to understand, like, what's appropriate to share. Mm-hmm. And I think that even though maybe we perceive high school students as being kind of, like bragging and I got this, they're really shy, right? They don't know that washing dishes or helping out with babysitting or running errands is worthy and reflects character. And having someone like you in the classroom helping students understand, like, these are valuable things to share with people who are looking at you as a candidate for their college or their company.
Indeed. Because of the fact that if you utilize that, and we talked about the contextualized learning, if you utilize that in the classroom, what it becomes is a guided practice. You as the teacher, you're the facilitator. But then once the student becomes very familiar with the platform and it being a part almost of day to day, even in your presence or without, what it does now is independent practice. And so those students will actually just get a feel for, hey, the more I put in, and this is what I tell all students, the more you put in, the more you get out.
I always say garbage in, garbage out, but yours is much more positive. The
Yeah.
more you put in, the more you get out.
Yeah.
That's true for everything. And
Everything.
It's very important they learn that early in life, right?
Absolutely.
So this is a great, and I feel like it's a very quick, almost, I don't want to say instant gratification because it's not instant, but I know my son put his profile up and within a couple of months, people were reaching out, like Abed saying, hey, do you want to become an intern with us?
Wow.
So excited because he didn't think he would have those skills at 18. So that kind of gratification motivates students to do more.
It does.
The next time when they start getting noticed.
It does. And I would tell this is my advice to any educator, do a demo account of yourself so you can maneuver through the platform yourself. And that will tell you what creativity you can come up with in your classroom that is just not a sit and get.
Right.
You're able to pretty much make all kinds of activities out of that. And I've been able to do that.
That's amazing. I wanted to ask one more question. We have 3 minutes before Q&A starts.
Sure.
So you talked about community, and I feel like often even people who are using Tallo may not go to the community page and explore it. So can you tell us a little bit about, your experience with Tallo, how you would, or the community, how you would describe it? You meant, you referenced that ambassador. So Tariq is an ambassador for the community. But tell us a little bit more about how you perceive it and why you think it's such a valuable place for students to go.
Because it is monitored, because if someone ever gets to the place like, well, hey, this is a lot. One of the things we do with Support Matters is if we have anything with parents involved, we do assure them that it is secure and it is being monitored, but yet it is a place where students have not only the capability, but they have a little bit of the freedom without, anything that's negative, but yet it's a good affirmative part of their career. And even just making choices, we can take the career out of it. And simple things, whether they're asking questions or whether they are sharing a story, a willing testament for someone else to say, hey, they did that, I can do that too.
So students are supporting each other. They're asking questions there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's
not, I know we have Tallo moderators on there who are making sure things stay clean, but it's really student driven. Questions are being answered by other students who've been in that place. They've experienced it. I know I've read some things like, this is the first time I feel like people get me. I've always been oddball, but they get me here. And that's just heartwarming.
Yeah. And so, Charlotte, let me, elaborate on that a little. And that's because our SEL and our outcomes that we use in the classrooms are very pertinent as well. So that community alone is so helpful. And that does help along with the social and emotional learning outcomes.
Well, I am so appreciative of all that you have shared with us. I think that we've gone everywhere in every way that Tallo can be used. And I bet you people have questions. So I don't see anything up there yet, but if you have any questions, please send them my way. Let's see if we have any coming in. Here's our first question. How many years have you used Tallo?
Actually, I started in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how many of your students have attended STEM signing day?
Oh gosh. So it started in Sumter. So we had 2 there when I was there. And then in Richland too, it's been a number. So we're talking about maybe with both schools in the CAP program. So, and both schools actually had, a representative. So that was great. So we're talking maybe 4. While I was there.
Because it's an honor, right? Kids who get into STEM signing day, it's not like they can just sign up and they get chosen.
No.
They just register for it. Can you tell
there is a process?
Yeah.
So I can share a little bit about that. So again, we're talking about the more you put in the result will be the more you get out. And so I've had students to, if they were participating in robotics, hey, put the video up there. If you have a certain score on ACT, and I will say this too, Charlotte, as I digress, but everything is not about a 4.0 school average, a grade average. Everything is not about that. Some things are just about the ability and you not having the know-how, but wanting to know the know-how, and having, that oomph and making sure that, hey, I really want to invest in this. This is something that I've always wanted to do. I just don't know how to get there. And so just having that, those pretty much, just having the know-how and educators being able to share along with students about how they can do that. Yeah.
I love
I
that.
see the questions coming in.
Yeah, well, we had a couple, and these are more like administrative, but will the recording be accessible later on? I'm going to send a link of the recording to everyone who registered for today, but we'll also host it on that registration page. You'll be able to see the recording of the event. And then Ms. Smith, we're wondering if you're willing to share contact information.
Sure. The contact information is it for Lawrence or for Support Matters?
Well, we will wait and see, and then I'll add it in. I mean, I guess we could put them both in the chat.
Would you please?
With that. Yep.
Yep.
Let me see. You know what? Is it okay if I share it out when I send out the recording?
Yes.
Or email?
Please.
Okay, I'll do it that way. That makes it easier.
Yes.
And then you have a parent, Natika Brown, is a shout out to you specifically.
Yes.
And then we have a question: Is Tallo a good fit for the adult ed programs, and what are the benefits?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you do have in adult ed programs, those students who are called YAP students, and we call them young adult population. And they deserve chances as well, not just second or third, but they deserve chances as well. And so we want to ensure that they have the opportunities to, just because, traditional did not work out for them, that they also have a chance to utilize the platform and go further with their career development, and being aware of what careers are available to them.
That's great. And I think that's kind of a revolutionary way of thinking of Tallo, but it really is a tool that you never age out of. It's something that can be useful no matter where you are in your educational journey.
Absolutely.
All right. Do we have any other questions? We've got lots of thank you. So great to hear from you. Lots of people being appreciative of all your time, Ms. Smith, for sharing your stories, explaining how you've used it. So we really appreciate it and are thankful to you.
Great. It's been a joy being with you all this afternoon. Thank you so much for all of you who have attended today. I really do appreciate it. Some of the folks I saw the names popping up, and so and some of them I am really appreciative for just showing up and being here today and learning some more about Tallo.
Well, we are so appreciative, because real life in the classroom, working with student experiences outweighs anything I could ever tell anybody. Absolutely. Because you've lived it and learned with it. So I'll be sending out a thank you for attending, and then with your contact information.
Great. Sounds perfect.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Bye.
You too.